how did you guys initially go to your first march, or how did you initially first get involved with the movement?
I went to the March on Washington in 1993. I don't know if was anyone else there? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. A few people. I was there. I mean, I think, what was that, 20 at the time. And yeah, no, I mean, that was amazing. And I do remember one instance where it was right on the mall, there was a mock wedding. And because that was so far outside the mindset of where the community was at the time to think that, gay and lesbian people could get married. So, the fact that we were doing that as, AIDS was also there and very prevalent in the community. So that was a time for me when I was coming into my activism.
Yeah, I remember my first march or protest was in 2012, and I think it was Trayvon Martin that really it made me so hyper aware of racism. I grew up with lesbian moms, and I knew about these things, but it wasn't on a personal level where I realized that this is something that really exists and our country needs to face it. So I remember going to one of the hoods up black sweatshirt rallies or marches and feeling so just deeply saddened and mourned, understanding this at such a deep level really impacted me. Yeah, and I think it's just a Facebook post that got me involved. Just someone posted something and I was like, okay, I need to do this.
So there is a whole thing, the difference, discussing microaggressions and macroaggressions, deciding whether that's going to act on them. And I got a Twitter message a while back, and it said, "Hey Bob, we are from I think it was a group we want to stop bullying. Do you want to help us raise money for stopping bullying?" And I said to myself, I certainly don't condone bullying, but I believe that trying to stop bullying, there will always be bullies. There will never not be bullies. Now, if I have $5, I'm not going to give it to Let's Stop Bullying, because people are going to bully anyway. But I will give my $5 to Let's Get Guns Off the Streets, because it's actually a tangible thing that we can help get rid of. Whereas opposed, if I dedicate my time to making sure, if I don't have kids, and I shouldn't, but if I had kids, if you teach yours to learn how to have their confidence in themselves, and how the words of others they can't tear you down. My mom got called the N-word. My mom's from Mississippi. She was born in the 60s. Of course, she got called the N-word all the time. And then she came home, she was so mad. And then her mom said to her, "Why are you so mad?" And she goes, "Well, they call me this." And she goes, "Well, are you? Are you that?" And she goes, "No." And then she goes, then that doesn't apply to you. You've heard the saying, it's not what you're called, it's what you answer to. You see what I'm saying? And if you operate from that place within yourself, and if we teach everyone to truly operate from a place of respect and love, then the bullying will actually stop. So instead of saying, you don't bully, everyone teach, you respect yourself, you love yourself, and then you won't actually have the urge to do that to other people. Does that make any sense at all, or am I sounding crazy?
Yes, that makes sense.
If I could just add to, about those bullies and under the current climate, a lot of those bullies are emboldened now. And what we've seen at the commission, or what I saw just last week, we worked closely with the Anti-Violence Project, and there was a anti-trans violent incident in Bed-Stuy. That was the 4th violent act against a trans person of color just in the past 5 months. So, a lot of this is also locally. We worked with Make the Road New York also to determine, what are some of those businesses, small businesses, your local bodega, where can you go that's safe when you're out late at night, trying to get home, just trying to have fun with your friends? Where is it that you can go in your neighborhood that's safe? And that's, something we've been working to do.
It's really important work. How do you guys confront intolerance when you're faced with it online versus in person?
Online, it's really, I have such a nice community around me, so I'm a white male, so I'm not really faced with it as much. I have so much privilege in my life that I don't even realize that I'm not faced with it as much as other people are. But when I am faced with it as a gay man, honestly, I try to educate. I try to be kind and educate and hope that it's just coming from a place of ignorance. and not a place of hate necessarily, if that makes sense. So I always try to take the route of maybe they just don't understand and maybe they're just afraid of something that they don't know. So I'm always trying to approach it calmly and cautiously besides just attacking someone for not understanding something.
If it's online, online is such a funny place. It's a weird world where you don't have to see someone after you said something to them, so you don't have to actually deal with your human feelings of how those words affected someone else. So if you call me a name online and then I click and you're private and you have 2 followers and then you're not even a real person. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to argue with your Finstagram. That's not going to happen today. You see what I'm saying? And when someone tries to do something to me in person, I used to work for a company called Climb Theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota, creative learning ideas for mind and body, and they taught us something. Say what you see, say how you feel, walk away and keep yourself safe. You see what I'm saying? So if I go to work and you call me I say, you just called me I don't like it. Don't do it again. And then you leave. You see what I'm saying? And when people talk like that, when people assert themselves like that, you tend to garner more respect. There's a reason why they don't mess with Nene Leakes on Real Housewives, because she's like, you are not allowed to talk to me like this. So they don't talk to her like that because she says you can't do it. You see what I'm saying? So I always remember that. It's not mine. I didn't make it up. It's from Climb Theater. Say what you see. Say how you feel. Keep yourself safe. Say what you want. Keep yourself safe and walk away. Because it's not about sitting around arguing about whether or not you're allowed to call me. Of course you're allowed to. It's America. Of course you're allowed to call me. But I'm not going to stick around and let you do it. And if you do, I'm not going to answer to it.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And they also, in both situations of online and in person, just like you said, targeting the ideology rather than the person, like knowing the facts and the information and what you're talking about. So you're not, there's not this like back and forth dispute that can happen in both. You can really get at what you're trying to express, because online, you can have this like long argument or in person, and when you go with that and you know exactly what you're talking about and make sure you do, you can really like dig into that like deep root instead of getting at this like surface level kind of minimal argument.
Yeah, so I go back and forth between responding to people or not. As a member of Gays Against Guns and someone who operates the page or as the admin for the page, I post something or we post something as a group, we invariably get, hateful comments. We also get, I've received a lot of private messages that you suck, hope you die, you had AIDS, you all should have died, blah, blah, blah. What you're, and laughing at us and saying you'll never win. And sometimes, I've elected to ignore it, and then other times I've responded in kind. The thinking that there might be an opportunity for dialogue here, but you really have to like assess your opponents, and if they are open to dialogue and communication and exchange of thoughts, or just they're trafficking in like hate speech and they just are getting like cheap thrills that way. This idea of like if you like, I will extend my hands if you sort of unclench your fist, I think is what we hope that people will do that, but sometimes people don't respond in kind. However, I do think that social media offers the self something rewarding and also satisfying, is that there's an opportunity to really solidify your thoughts. Like, so you're sitting down, you're writing is thinking, and so then you can really, discuss and debate from a very clear perspective. It sort of helps you clean out the sort of cobwebs, the excess noise, whatever, and then like sort of share your position. But it's complicated because I understand that people have their position that's different from mine, and even friends. And so I just have to really pick my battles in that way. I have to see if, in fact, if it makes sense for both myself and or the organization.
I also decide to, I'm not going to argue with you in my DMs, because you and me aren't going to change our opinions. But if I talk to you on my platform and I have 145 Instagram followers, 1,000 Instagram followers, and almost 700,000 Twitter Instagram, whatever, almost, then people will see that. Like, a lot of people can see this, and then that can affect change. But you and me sitting in a diner and talking, can't affect a whole lot of change because it's just you and me. But you and me, if we record this conversation and we state our piece, then a lot of people can see it. That can affect change on a larger scale. So if I think it could actually help other people, then I will engage in what I think is a helpful dialogue with someone. But if it's just me and a person fighting in DMs, I'm not about that life.